When my younger brother turned 30, the whole family gathered to celebrate. The living room glittered with balloons, champagne glasses clinked, and everyone waited for the big reveal. And then it came, the keys to a brand new $40,000 car. The room erupted in cheers, cameras flashing, my parents beaming with pride. I clapped too, smiling politely, though my chest ached. At 58, I had carried this family for decades without anyone ever handing me gifts like that. But what they didn't know was that while they celebrated chrome and horsepower, I had already bought something far greater, a house. Favoritism in my family wasn't hidden. It was tradition. My brother was the baby, the charmer, the one who could always make people laugh. From the time he was little, everyone said he was destined for something grand. When he wanted the latest sneakers, Mom found the money. When he wrecked his car in college, Dad bailed him out without hesitation. When he quit his first job, relatives shrugged, saying, "He'll land on his feet." And me, I was the responsible one. The daughter expected to manage without help. If I needed something, the answer was always, "She's strong, she'll figure it out." So I did. I worked summers in a greasy diner, scraping together tips to buy used textbooks. I patched holes in hand-me-down clothes, skipped nights out, studied late. By 25, I was helping cover family bills while he borrowed gas money. At 30, I bought a secondhand car in cash, no applause, no fanfare. Years rolled on. My brother drifted from job to job, girlfriend to girlfriend. Yet every mistake was softened, every stumble excused. Meanwhile, I lived carefully, stacking small savings into larger ones, choosing discipline over indulgence. At 58, I had long stopped expecting recognition. I had accepted being the shadow while he soaked in the spotlight. So when Mom called with excitement saying, "We're throwing a huge party for his 30th, I wasn't surprised. I ironed my dress, baked a cake, and showed up on time, as I always did. The house was packed that night. Music pulsed, laughter echoed, glasses clinked. My brother basked in the glow of admiration, beaming, soaking in every ounce of praise. Then the surprise came. My parents presented a gift-wrapped box. He tore off the paper, and inside was a key fob. "It's yours," Mom cried. "A brand new $40,000 car," Dad added. The room erupted. People hugged him, cheered, clapped. "You deserve it." "Lucky man." Tears filled his eyes. "Best family ever," he shouted. And I smiled, my hands clapping in rhythm with the crowd, though my heart pounded with something sharper than envy. Because just 3 days earlier, I had sat in a quiet office, pen in hand, signing the deed to my first home. Paid mostly up front. No gifts, no help, earned. So while they cheered for him, I sipped champagne and whispered inside, "Celebrate now. My turn is coming." The party carried on, louder and brighter, with every passing minute. Music thumped through the walls, plates of food were passed around, glasses filled and refilled. My brother, keys dangling in his hands, strutted like a champion athlete. Every guest wanted to touch the key fob, to hear him describe the leather seats, the horsepower, the surround sound system. I stayed near the corner, sipping my drink, smiling when eyes met mine. I'd played this role my whole life. The quiet one, the background figure, the steady support. Tonight was no different. At least that's what they thought. Then it happened. My cousin, balancing a plate of appetizers, turned casually and asked, "So what's new with you?" It was such a small question, almost filler, but it cracked the silence wide open. I tilted my head, letting a pause hang just long enough to draw attention. Then I said softly, "Not much. Just bought a house." The words cut through the chatter like a blade. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Glasses hovered midair. Music still played, but the room itself felt suspended. "A house?" my aunt gasped, eyes wide. "Yes," I nodded, voice steady. "Closed last week. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a little garden out back." My brother blinked, his grin faltering. "Wait, you?" "Yeah," I repeated, calm, certain. "I paid most of it up front." "It's mine." Whispers erupted. She bought a house? On her own? At her age? For once, the spotlight shifted. Heads turned. Faces that usually looked past me now stared as if seeing me for the first time. Admiration flickered where dismissal had once lived. My brother's keys slipped slightly in his hand. His shiny gift suddenly looked smaller, less permanent, less grand. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I simply sipped my drink, and let the silence say everything. Because in that moment, my years of sacrifice, my long nights, my quiet strength, all of it spoke louder than the roar of any engine. Questions tumbled out almost immediately. Where is it? How did you manage? Can we see pictures? I reached into my purse, pulling out my phone. The screen glowed with photos I'd taken the day I signed the deed. The brick exterior, solid and timeless. The cozy living room with sunlight spilling across the hardwood floor. The kitchen with windows looking out on a small yard. Gasps echoed around the room. "It's beautiful," my aunt whispered. "You really did this alone?" "Yes," I said simply. Years of saving, budgeting, and patience. No shortcuts. I swiped through another photo, me standing on the porch, holding the keys, grinning wider than I had in years. For once, that smile was reflected back at me by others, their eyes full of respect instead of indifference. But not everyone was smiling. Across the room, my brother shifted uncomfortably, his car keys limp in his hand. He forced a laugh, his voice too loud. "Well, good for you. But a car is practical too. Not everything's about houses." I met his eyes, my tone gentle but sharp enough to slice through his defense. "True, but a car loses value the second you drive it off the lot. A house builds value every single day." The room stilled. Conversations that had started up again died quickly. No one could argue with that. My cousin leaned in, whispering just loud enough for others to hear. "She's right, you know." My brother's jaw tightened. He fumbled with the key fob, pressing the buttons like a nervous tick. For the first time that night, he wasn't glowing. He was shrinking. And I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to gloat. I simply let the truth hang in the air, undeniable and heavy. It was a shift so subtle, yet so powerful. For years, I had been invisible in this family, but in that moment, I wasn't background anymore. I was the story. The days after the party felt different. My phone, usually quiet, began to buzz. Relatives who had never asked about my life were suddenly curious. My aunt called first. "How did you save enough?" "I can't even keep track of my grocery bills." Then a cousin sent a message. "Would you mind showing me how you budget?" I've been trying for years. Each call, each question felt like a small crack in the wall that had kept me invisible. Even my parents softened. Dad stopped by one Saturday, toolbox in hand, insisting he help tighten the hinges on my new front door. Mom asked about the garden, her tone warmer than it had been in years. These weren't grand gestures, but they carried weight. For the first time, I felt seen. But not everyone adjusted so easily. My brother wrestled with a new reality. He was no longer the only star in the family. He flaunted his car more aggressively, parking it right out front with the headlights on, revving the engine louder than necessary. He posted photos online daily. Him leaning against the hood, him polishing the rims, him driving aimlessly with the music blasting. But the shine faded quickly. A scratch on the bumper appeared within weeks. Insurance bills piled up. The thrill of a new car dulled, while my house stood steady, more valuable with each passing day. One evening, he came by unannounced. He stood in my kitchen, staring at the framed deed on the wall. His voice was low, bitter. "You made me look small." I set down the dish towel in my hands and faced him. "I didn't make you look small. I simply showed the size of what I built." He opened his mouth, but no words came. His eyes flickered with something I'd never seen before. Not anger, not pride, but a reluctant respect he couldn't yet admit out loud. For the first time, he understood that applause and gifts fade, but hard work leaves a mark no one can erase. Months later, it was Thanksgiving. For the first time, the family dinner wasn't held at my parents' house. It was at mine. The kitchen buzzed with the scent of roasted turkey, cinnamon pies cooling on the counter, fresh bread warming in the oven. My dining table, longer than I ever imagined owning, was covered in dishes that shimmered under the soft glow of a chandelier I had chosen myself. Relatives streamed in, hanging coats, marveling at the space. "This place is gorgeous," my cousin whispered. "I can't believe you did this all on your own." I smiled, pouring glasses of wine. For once, their words weren't laced with doubt. They were genuine. Dad carved the turkey, Mom passed plates, laughter filled the air. The house echoed with warmth, a sound I had dreamed of for years. And at the head of the table, in the chair I had bought and polished, I sat. Not as the quiet daughter, not as the overlooked sister, but as the host, the provider, the foundation. As we raised glasses, my cousin stood, voice strong. To her. Proof that patience and sacrifice outlast quick applause, everyone clinked glasses. And for a moment, I had to blink back tears. Across the table, my brother sat quieter than usual. His car keys weren't in sight. He stared down at his plate, shoulders tense. But every now and then he glanced up at me. No jokes, no smug smile. Just silence. For years, I had clapped politely for his victories, swallowing my hurt. But that night, the roles reversed. He clapped for me. And though his hands moved slowly, almost grudgingly, I heard it clear. Respect. It wasn't about one-upping him. It wasn't about revenge. It was about finally being seen for who I was and what I had built. That evening, as the last guest left and the house grew quiet again, I walked through each room slowly. The walls seemed to hum with pride, not just mine, but my mother's too. For decades I had lived in the shadows, but now I had created a space that was mine, built from sacrifice, discipline, and strength. And as I locked the door that night, the keys cool in my hand, I whispered to myself, this is what lasting value feels like. In the end, my brother's $40,000 car became just another vehicle on the road, flashy at first, then ordinary, already losing value. But my house? It became a legacy, a foundation built brick by brick from years of sacrifice and steady hands. The night my family gathered under my roof, I realized something powerful. Worth isn't measured by who gets the loudest applause. It's measured by what endures when the noise fades. I don't chase recognition anymore. I hold the keys to a home that's mine, and the respect that came not from gifts, but from grit. So let me ask you, have you ever been overlooked, only to reveal a strength no one expected? How did it feel when the truth finally surfaced? Share your story in the comments, and join me for more tales where persistence outshines privilege.